The earring wasn't mine. Hell, it wasn't even Dana's style. Too gaudy, too cheap for my wife's refined tastes. I held the gold-plated thing up to the lamplight in our bedroom, turning it over in my fingers like evidence at a crime scene. Which, in a way, it was. "Peter, you coming to bed?" Dana's voice drifted from the bathroom, sweet as poisoned honey. She'd been in there for 20 minutes, scrubbing off whatever she'd gotten into during her networking event at the country club. Third one this month. "Just finishing up some work?" I called back, slipping the earring into my desk drawer. My graphic design projects could wait. This little mystery had my full attention now. Dana emerged from the bathroom in her silk nightgown, the expensive one I'd bought her for our anniversary. Her blonde hair was still damp, and she smelled like our lavender body wash instead of her usual perfume. Interesting. Very interesting. "How was the networking thing?" I asked, keeping my voice casual as I pretended to organize papers on my desk. "Oh, you know how it is? Same boring HR discussions, same terrible wine." She slipped under the covers, turning away from me. "I'm exhausted." I bet she was. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, once, twice, 3 times. Dana's hand shot out to silence it, but not before I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. Lucas R. Lucas Reed. I knew that name from somewhere. Real estate guy, maybe? One of those slick types who advertised on park benches and grocery store carts around town. "Popular tonight," I commented, nodding toward her phone. "Work emergency. You know how it is." Dana pulled the covers up to her chin, already pretending to drift off. "Right. Work emergency at 11:30 on a Friday night from a real estate agent." I waited until her breathing evened out, then slipped out of bed and padded to my office upstairs. Our old Victorian house creaked with every step, but Dana was a heavy sleeper, especially after her networking events. My office occupied what used to be the attic, complete with slanted ceilings and a single dormer window overlooking our quiet street. I'd set it up as my man cave after we moved in 5 years ago, back when Dana still pretended to care about my hobbies. Now it felt more like a refuge. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I settled into my desk chair and opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. What exactly was I looking for? Evidence of what? I wasn't even sure I wanted to know. But that earring sat in my drawer like a ticking bomb, and Lucas R's name kept flashing in my mind like a neon sign. I started with the basics. Facebook showed Lucas Reed as a successful real estate agent with Reed Properties, married to a sharp-looking brunette named Rachel. His profile was full of the usual suspects: golf tournaments, charity events, professional headshots with that practiced smile that never reached the eyes. Then I found the connection. 3 weeks ago, Dana had liked one of his posts about a charity auction at the country club, the same country club where she'd been networking tonight. My phone buzzed. A text from my buddy Sam. "Beer tomorrow? Got some stories from the precinct." Sam Morrison had been my best friend since college, back when we were both convinced we'd conquer the world. He'd gone the cop route for 15 years before switching to private security consulting. I'd gone the starving artist route, though graphic design paid better than I'd expected. "Sure," I texted back. "Got some stories of my own." I was about to close the laptop when Dana's phone buzzed again downstairs. Then again. Someone really wanted to reach my wife at midnight on a Friday, someone named Lucas R. The smart thing would have been to go to bed, pretend I'd never found that earring, never noticed the late-night texts. The smart thing would have been to trust my wife of 8 years, give her the benefit of the doubt. But I'd never been accused of being smart. Ask anyone who'd watched me try to make it as a freelance designer in a town where most people still thought websites were optional. I crept downstairs, avoiding the creaky step third from the bottom. Dana's phone sat on her nightstand, screen dark, but still buzzing every few minutes. She hadn't moved, still curled up on her side, facing away from my side of the bed. Her phone was password protected, but I knew the code. Our anniversary date. How romantic. The irony wasn't lost on me as I punched in the numbers. 17 missed messages from Lucas R., starting around 10:30. I scrolled through them, my stomach sinking with each one. "Amazing tonight. Can't stop thinking about you." "When can we do this again? Your husband suspect anything?" "Next Friday? Same place?" "Dana, answer me, getting worried." The timestamps told the story. Dana had been texting him right up until she walked in the door, then radio silence, because she'd been too busy scrubbing off evidence and playing the tired wife. I scrolled up through their conversation history, going back weeks. Pet names I'd never heard her use, plans for meetings at hotels outside town, Complaints about me. Apparently I was boring and clueless and always buried in work. That last one stung. Yeah, I worked a lot. Freelance design meant feast or famine, and I'd been trying to build something stable for us, for our future, while she'd been building something with Lucas Reed. I took screenshots of everything, forwarding them to my personal email before deleting the evidence of my snooping. Dana stirred as I placed her phone back on the nightstand, but she didn't wake up. Back in my office, I stared at the photos on my phone. 8 years of marriage, reduced to evidence in a cheating spouse case. The woman I'd loved since college, who'd promised to build a life with me, was planning her next rendezvous with a real estate shark while I slept 10 feet away. The rationale part of my brain said I should confront her, demand explanations, maybe suggest counseling. The rational part said there might be a way to work through this, save our marriage, rebuild trust. But the rationale part of my brain had never been in charge during the important moments of my life. That's how I'd ended up as an artist instead of an accountant, how I'd proposed to Dana on our third date, how I'd bought this old house that needed more work than we could afford. And right now, the irrational part was suggesting something much more interesting than a tearful confrontation and couples therapy. Dana wanted drama. She was about to get more than she'd bargained for. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Not a design project this time, but something much more personal. A plan. By the time the sun came up, I had the outline of what I was already thinking of as my masterpiece. Not a logo or website design, but something that would showcase talents I'd forgotten I had. Dana emerged from the bedroom around 9, looking refreshed and innocent in her weekend clothes. She kissed my cheek as she passed my desk, the same way she had every Saturday morning for years. "Sleep well?" she asked, already reaching for her phone. "Like a baby," I said. "You?" "Oh, you know me, out like a light." She glanced at her phone, and I caught the flash of panic when she saw all those missed messages from Lucas. "I'm meeting Sam for lunch," I announced. "Guy stuff. Probably be gone most of the afternoon." "Sounds fun?" She was already typing a response to her boyfriend, fingers flying over the screen. "I might do some shopping, maybe meet Tessa for coffee." Tessa. Dana's work friend and partner in crime. I made a mental note to add her to my growing list of people who probably knew about Lucas. "Have fun," I said, and meant it. Because while she was out covering her tracks and planning her next move, I'd be planning mine. And I had a feeling my plan was going to be a lot more creative than hers. The Overlook Tavern sat on the edge of downtown like a relic from better times, when our town actually mattered to someone besides the people stuck living here. Sam had claimed our usual booth in the back corner, the one with a clear view of the entire bar and both exits. Old habits from his cop days. "You look like hell," he said as I slid into the cracked vinyl seat across from him. "Thanks. Just what every man wants to hear." I flagged down the waitress and ordered a burger and beer. Comfort food for uncomfortable revelations. Sam studied me with those sharp gray eyes that had made him a good detective. He was built like a linebacker who'd gone soft around the edges, but there was still something dangerous about him when he focused. "What's eating you, Pete?" I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. Sam's eyebrows climbed higher with each screenshot he scrolled through. "Well, damn," he said finally. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on the texts, at least 2 months. Probably longer." I took a long pull from my beer. Found one of his girlfriend's earrings in our laundry yesterday. That's what started me digging. "Lucas Reed." Sam shook his head. "I know this guy. Slick as they come, thinks his charm makes him bulletproof. Married to Rachel Reed, she's got money, old family around here. He's been riding her coattails for years." "What kind of guy are we talking about?" Sam leaned back, considering. "The kind who'd steal your wallet and help you look for it. Never been arrested, but he's had complaints. Shady real estate deals, clients who felt pressured. Nothing that stuck, but where there's smoke, there's usually a cheating husband setting fires." "Something like that." Sam handed my phone back. "So what's the plan? Divorce lawyer? Private investigator?" I shook my head. "Something better." "Pete, I know that look. That's your 'I'm about to do something stupid' look. Same one you had before you bought that money pit house." "The house turned out fine." "After you nearly went bankrupt fixing it." "This is different." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Dana wants to play games? I'm going to show her what happens when you challenge someone who designs games for a living." Sam raised an eyebrow. "You design websites and logos." "Same skill set. Problem solving, strategic thinking, understanding what makes people tick." I pulled up Lucas Reed's real estate website on my phone. "Look at this guy's marketing. Everything's about image, reputation, trust. His whole business depends on people believing he's honest and reliable. And you're thinking of messing with that? I'm thinking of giving him exactly what he deserves, both of them. The waitress brought my burger, and I realized I was actually hungry for the first time in 24 hours. Amazing what a good plan could do for your appetite. What do you need from me? Sam asked. Information, surveillance, maybe some of those tricks you learned in your law enforcement days. I'm not breaking any laws for you, Pete. I wouldn't ask you to. Everything I'm planning is perfectly legal. Morally questionable, maybe, but legal. Sam grinned. Now you're talking my language. When do we start? Tonight. Dana's got another networking event at the country club. I'm betting she's meeting Lucas. And we're going to follow them? We're going to document everything, photos, video, whatever we can get, but that's just the beginning. I spent the next hour outlining my plan. Sam listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or asking clarifying questions. By the time I finished, he was shaking his head in admiration. You're either brilliant or completely insane, he said. Why not both? We spent another hour working out the details, then Sam headed home to gather some equipment while I went shopping for supplies. Nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, just some items that would come in handy over the next few weeks. Dana was getting ready when I got home, standing in front of our bedroom mirror in a black dress I'd never seen before. It was cut lower than her usual style, more fitted, more obviously designed to attract attention. New dress? I asked, keeping my tone casual. This old thing? I've had it forever. She smoothed the fabric over her hips, checking her reflection from different angles. Just haven't had occasion to wear it. Right. She'd been saving it for special occasions, like dates with Lucas Reed. You look beautiful, I said, and meant it. Even knowing what I knew, Dana was still stunning. That's what made this whole situation so much worse. She wasn't cheating because she'd let herself go or because we'd grown apart. She was cheating because she could, because she wanted excitement, because she thought I was too boring and trusting to ever catch on. She was half right. Thanks, honey. She kissed my cheek, leaving a faint lipstick mark. Don't wait up. These networking things tend to run late. I'll probably be working anyway. Got a big project due Monday. Another lie. I did have a project due, but it could wait. Tonight's project was much more important. Dana left at 7:30, driving her silver Lexus toward downtown. I waited 15 minutes, then texted Sam, Target is mobile. His response came immediately. On it. Sam had positioned himself in the country club parking lot, camera ready. His security consulting business gave him access to professional surveillance equipment, all perfectly legal to own and operate. I had a different job tonight. While Sam documented Dana and Lucas's romantic evening, I was going to pay a visit to Lucas's house. Not to break in or vandalize anything. I wasn't stupid. But public records showed that Rachel Reed traveled frequently for her job in pharmaceutical sales. Her social media confirmed she was currently at a conference in Chicago, not due back until Sunday, which meant Lucas's house would be empty while he was out with my wife. I drove slowly through Lucas's neighborhood, a development of oversized houses that had gone up during the real estate boom. Everything looked the same, manicured lawns, 3-car garages, the kind of place where people bought houses to impress other people they didn't actually like. Lucas's house was a monument to compensating for something, all glass and angles and unnecessary square footage. His BMW sat in the driveway next to Rachel's empty spot, confirming what I already knew, he wasn't home. I parked across the street and walked casually to his front door, carrying a clipboard and wearing a polo shirt I'd bought specifically for this purpose. To anyone watching, I looked like a contractor or inspector making evening rounds. The front door was locked, obviously, but I wasn't trying to get inside. I was interested in what I could see from outside, what I could learn about Lucas Reed's life and habits. The living room windows showed expensive furniture arranged with the precision of a showroom. Everything was white or black or chrome, the kind of decor that looked impressive in magazines but felt cold in person. No family photos, no personal touches, nothing that suggested actual people lived here. I walked around to the backyard, still carrying my clipboard like I belonged there. The back of the house was mostly glass, offering a clear view into the kitchen and dining room. More expensive, impersonal furniture, a wine collection that probably cost more than my car, but it was the home office that really interested me. Through the window, I could see Lucas's desk, computer, filing cabinets, and sitting right there in plain view, a stack of real estate contracts and what looked like financial documents. I took photos through the window, zooming in on anything that might be useful later. Bank statements, client files, business correspondence. Lucas wasn't very careful about securing sensitive information. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Got them. Hotel on Route 9, room 237. Plenty of photos. Perfect, heading home. I walked back to my car, nodding politely to a neighbor who was walking his dog. Just another contractor finishing up his evening rounds, nothing suspicious here. The drive home gave me time to think about the next phase of my plan. I had evidence of the affair now, photos and documentation that would hold up in any divorce proceeding. But divorce wasn't what I wanted. I wanted Lucas Reed and my cheating wife to understand what it felt like to have their comfortable little world turned upside down. I wanted them to experience the same shock and betrayal and humiliation they'd put me through. And I wanted everyone in our small town to know exactly what kind of people they really were. Dana got home around midnight, moving quietly through the house like she was trying not to wake me. I listened from my office as she went through her usual post-affair routine, long shower, teeth brushing, phone on silent. When I was sure she was asleep, I downloaded the photos Sam had sent. Lucas and Dana entering the hotel together, holding hands in the parking lot, kissing by his car. Professional quality surveillance photos that told the whole story. I spent another hour researching Rachel Reed, Lucas's wife. Her pharmaceutical company's website showed her as a regional sales director, successful in her own right. Her social media painted a picture of someone who worked hard and traveled constantly, trying to build something meaningful while her husband played around behind her back. She deserved to know the truth. But more than that, she deserved the chance to be part of the solution. I found her business email address and started typing, "Mrs. Reed, you don't know me, but we have something in common. I think we should meet." Rachel Reed looked exactly like her photos, sharp, professional, and completely in control. She'd chosen a coffee shop on the outskirts of town for our meeting, somewhere neither of us was likely to run into familiar faces, a smart woman. "You must be Peter," she said, extending a manicured hand. Her grip was firm, her smile polite but guarded. "I have to admit, your email intrigued me." "Thanks for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't." She settled into the booth across from me, studying my face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "But something about the way you wrote that message. I had a feeling I needed to hear what you had to say." I slid a manila envelope across the table. "Maybe you should look at these first." Rachel opened the envelope and pulled out the photos Sam had taken. Her expression didn't change as she flipped through them, but I saw her jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "How long have you known?" she asked finally. "About a week. How long have you suspected?" "Months." She set the photos aside and wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "Lucas thinks he's clever, but he's actually quite predictable. Late nights, mysterious phone calls, sudden interest in grooming products he's never cared about before." "Why didn't you confront him?" Rachel's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Because I wanted to be sure. And because I wanted to choose the time and place for maximum impact. I liked her already." "What do you know about your husband's business practices?" I asked. "More than he thinks I do. Why?" "Because I think Lucas has been making some questionable choices beyond just cheating on you, and I think together we can make sure everyone knows about it." Rachel leaned forward, suddenly very interested. "What kind of questionable choices?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken through Lucas's office window. Financial documents left sitting in plain view, client files scattered around, bank statements with some interesting discrepancies. "You photographed these through his window?" "From a public sidewalk, looking at documents he left visible, perfectly legal." Rachel studied the photos, her expression growing more focused. "This bank statement, the deposits don't match his commission schedule. And this client file, I know this property. It sold 6 months ago, but Lucas told me the deal fell through. Sounds like your husband has been creative with his bookkeeping." "Creative is one word for it." Rachel handed my phone back. "What exactly are you proposing, Peter?" "I'm proposing we give Lucas and Dana exactly what they deserve. Public humiliation, professional consequences, and a lesson they'll never forget." "I'm listening." I outlined my plan over the next hour. Rachel asked smart questions, suggested improvements, and added details that made the whole thing even better. By the time we finished our coffee, we had a comprehensive strategy that would hit both our cheating spouses where it hurt most, their reputations. "There's a charity auction next Friday night," Rachel said. "Lucas is on the organizing committee, and it's the biggest social event of the year. Everyone who matters in this town will be there. Including Dana, she mentioned it last week, said she was looking forward to networking. Perfect, that gives us a week to prepare." We exchanged phone numbers and agreed to meet again in 2 days to finalize the details. As we prepared to leave, Rachel touched my arm. "Peter, I want you to know I'm not doing this just for revenge. Lucas has been lying to me, stealing from clients, and making a mockery of our marriage. He needs to face consequences. And Dana needs to learn that actions have results. Exactly. Rachel's smile was predatory now. This is going to be fun. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Sam helped me gather more evidence, following Lucas to meetings with clients and documenting his various deceptions. Rachel used her access to their home computer to copy financial records that showed the full extent of Lucas's creative accounting. Meanwhile, Dana continued her charade of the devoted wife, chatting about her day over dinner and asking about my work projects. She'd gotten better at hiding her phone, but she couldn't hide the little changes, new lingerie in the laundry, extra time spent on her appearance, the way she hummed while getting ready for her networking events. On Thursday night, she announced she'd be staying late at the office Friday to prepare for the charity auction. "It's such an important event for the company," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I want everything to be perfect." "I'm sure it will be," I said. "You're very good at making things look perfect." If she caught the double meaning, she didn't show it. Friday afternoon, Rachel texted me. "Everything ready on my end. You?" "Ready," I replied. "See you tonight." I spent the rest of the day putting the finishing touches on my presentation. Not a graphic design project this time, but something much more personal. A multimedia experience that would give everyone at the charity auction a clear picture of what Lucas Reed and Dana Harlan had been doing with their spare time. Dana left for work at 5:30, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than most people's mortgage payments. She kissed me goodbye at the door, the same casual peck she'd given me thousands of times before. "Don't wait up," she said. "These events always run late." "Have fun," I said. "I hope you get everything you deserve." She was already walking to her car, phone in hand, probably texting Lucas about their romantic evening ahead. She didn't hear the promise in my voice. At 7 o'clock, I put on my best suit and drove to the country club. The parking lot was full of expensive cars and people who thought they mattered. I spotted Dana's Lexus parked next to Lucas's BMW in a corner of the lot, away from the main entrance. How romantic. The ballroom was decorated with flowers and fairy lights, tables full of auction items and well-dressed people pretending to care about charity while they gossiped and networked. I recognized most of the faces: business owners, local politicians, social climbers who treated events like this as competitive sports. Dana stood near the bar with Lucas, both of them playing their parts perfectly. To anyone watching, they were just acquaintances making polite conversation. But I could see the way they looked at each other, the subtle touches, the shared smiles that meant more than words. Lucas Reed was everything I'd expected: tall, handsome in a generic way, with the kind of practiced charm that worked on people who didn't look too closely. He had his hand on Dana's back as he leaned in to whisper something that made her laugh. "Enjoying the show?" Rachel appeared beside me, stunning in a black evening gown that made every other woman in the room look overdressed. "It's educational," I said. "Ready for the main event?" "I've been ready for months." Rachel walked over to the auction podium and spoke quietly to the event coordinator. As a major donor and committee member's wife, she had the influence to make last-minute changes to the program. I made my way to the audio-visual booth, where a bored-looking technician was managing the sound system and projection screen. A $20 tip and a story about wanting to surprise my wife with a special presentation got me access to the equipment. By 8:30, the auction was in full swing. People bid enthusiastically on vacation packages and art pieces, feeling generous with their money for a good cause. Lucas played the role of gracious host, thanking donors and encouraging higher bids. That's when Rachel made her move. She walked to the podium and took the microphone from the auctioneer. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with tonight's auction, I'd like to share something special with all of you. A presentation about trust, honesty, and the importance of knowing who we're really supporting." The room fell quiet. Lucas looked confused, then concerned, as he realized his wife had gone off script. I clicked the remote, and the first photo appeared on the projection screen. Lucas and Dana entering the hotel together, holding hands, looking very much like a couple. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, whispers, the sound of chairs scraping as people turned to stare at the screen, then at Lucas and Dana. "This photo was taken last Tuesday night," Rachel continued, her voice steady and clear, "while I was in Chicago on business, trusting my husband to be faithful to our marriage vows." Dana had gone pale, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. Lucas was moving toward the podium, but Sam appeared in his path, my backup plan in case things got physical. The next photo showed Lucas and Dana kissing by his car, then another of them entering different hotels on different nights, a comprehensive documentation of their affair displayed for everyone to see. "But infidelity isn't the only betrayal here," Rachel continued. "Lucas has also been creative with his business practices." I clicked to the next slide. Copies of the financial documents showing Lucas's questionable transactions, client money that had been moved around in ways that benefited him more than his customers. The room was completely silent now, except for the whispers and shocked exclamations. Lucas had stopped trying to reach the podium and was backing toward the exit, but there were too many people blocking his way. "Mrs. Henderson," Rachel addressed an elderly woman in the front row, "you remember selling your late husband's property through Lucas last year? The property he told you sold for $200,000? Mrs. Henderson nodded, looking confused. According to public records, it actually sold for $250,000. Lucas kept the difference. Now Lucas was trying to push through the crowd, but people weren't moving aside. They were staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to anger. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, your investment property that Lucas said lost money last quarter, it actually generated a profit. Lucas has been depositing the rental income into his personal account." The Pattersons looked like they wanted to climb over tables to get to Lucas. I clicked to the final slide, a collage of text messages between Lucas and Dana, including the ones where they'd laughed about their respective spouses and planned their next rendezvous. "These are the people we've been trusting with our business, our money, and our marriages," Rachel said. "I thought you all deserved to know the truth." She set the microphone down and walked calmly off the stage. The room erupted. Lucas was surrounded now by angry clients and community members demanding explanations. Dana had dropped her champagne glass and was trying to push through the crowd toward the exit, but people kept stopping her to ask questions or make accusations. I found Rachel by the bar, calmly sipping a martini while chaos swirled around us. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Satisfied," she said. "You?" I watched Dana finally break free from the crowd and run toward the parking lot, Lucas close behind her. They'd probably spend the rest of the night trying to figure out how to salvage their reputations and their relationships. They were going to be disappointed. "I feel like this is just the beginning," I said. Rachel smiled. "Good, because I have some ideas about what comes next." The story hit social media before Dana and Lucas even made it out of the parking lot. By Saturday morning, everyone in town was talking about the charity auction scandal. The local newspaper's website crashed from traffic, and the morning radio show spent 2 hours discussing the most dramatic social event in our town's history. I sat in my office, monitoring the fallout while Dana hid in our bedroom. She'd come home around midnight, tears streaming down her face, and tried to explain herself. I'd listened politely, nodded in the right places, and told her we'd talk more in the morning. Now it was morning, and I had no intention of talking. I had work to do. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. "Local news wants an interview. Told them to call you." "Thanks, but I'm not looking for publicity." "Smart. Let the story tell itself." He was right. The photos and documents Rachel and I had presented spoke louder than any interview could. Lucas's real estate license was already under review by the state board. 3 of his clients had filed complaints, and Mrs. Henderson was talking to a lawyer about recovering her missing $50,000. Dana finally emerged from the bedroom around noon, looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair unwashed, still wearing the same clothes from last night. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we?" She sat down across from my desk, wrapping her arms around herself like she was cold. "How long have you known? Does it matter?" "Peter, please. I know you're angry, but we need to figure out how to handle this." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. Even disheveled and crying, Dana was beautiful. It was one of the things that had attracted me to her in college. She was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went, and somehow she'd chosen me. Now I understood why that had never made sense. "Handle what, exactly?" I asked. "The situation. Our marriage. What people are saying." "What are people saying?" Dana's face crumpled. "Horrible things. My boss called this morning. I'm being placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into my conduct. Tessa won't even answer my calls." "That's unfortunate." "Peter, you're acting like this doesn't affect you too. People are talking about both of us. They're saying you must have known, that you must be weak or stupid, or maybe they're saying I'm the wronged husband who finally got justice." Dana stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You planned this. The photos, the presentation, working with Rachel. You planned all of it." "I plan to give everyone the truth. What they do with that information is up to them." "This is going to ruin me." "You ruined yourself. I just documented it." Dana started crying again, the kind of theatrical sobs she'd always used to get her way. It had worked on me for years, that combination of beauty and vulnerability that made me want to protect her from the world. Now it just looked pathetic. "What do you want from me?" she asked between sobs. "Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore." "So that's it? 8 years of marriage, and you're just going to throw it all away over a mistake?" "A mistake?" I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough to make her flinch. "Dana, You've been planning secret rendezvous with Lucas for months. You've been lying to my face every day, spending our money on clothes and hotels for your affair, making me look like a fool to everyone we know. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? She didn't have an answer for that. My phone rang. Rachel's number. Excuse me, I said, answering the call. How are you holding up? Better than expected, Rachel said. Lucas spent the night at his brother's house. Apparently I changed the locks while he was at the auction. Efficient. I've had time to plan. Listen, are you free this afternoon? There's something I want to show you. I'll be right over. I hung up and found Dana staring at me with a mixture of hurt and anger. You're leaving? We're in the middle of a conversation. No, we're not. We're in the middle of you trying to manipulate me into taking responsibility for your choices. I'm not interested. Where are you going? Out. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Dana followed me, still crying, still trying to make this somehow my fault. Peter, please. We can work through this. We can go to counseling, start over, put this behind us. I turned around at the front door. Dana, last night you stood in a room full of people we've known for years and watched evidence of your affair get projected on a screen for everyone to see. Your response wasn't to apologize or take responsibility. It was to run away and then come home and try to convince me that I'm the problem. I'm not saying you're the problem. I'm saying we both made mistakes. What mistakes did I make? You've been distant, buried in work. You never want to go out or socialize or... So you decided to socialize with Lucas Reed. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Dana? Explain it to me. Help me understand how my working too much justified you having an affair. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For once in her life, Dana Harlan had nothing to say. I'll be back later, I said. Don't wait up. Rachel's house was a study in understated elegance, the kind of place that whispered money instead of shouting it. She answered the door in jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. How's married life treating you? I asked. Temporarily suspended, she said, leading me into a living room that actually looked like people lived in it. Coffee? Please. While she made coffee, I looked around the room. Family photos, books, plants that were actually alive. Everything Lucas's showcase house had been missing. This is nice, I said when she returned with 2 mugs. Thanks. I bought this place before I married Lucas. He always wanted me to sell it and move into something more impressive, but I liked having a space that was just mine. Smart woman. Smart enough to keep separate bank accounts and my own credit cards. Rachel settled into the chair across from me. Which brings me to what I wanted to show you. She handed me a folder thick with documents. Lucas's complete financial records for the past 3 years. Bank statements, client files, tax returns, everything. I flipped through the pages, whistling softly. This is comprehensive. I've been gathering evidence for months. The affair was just the final straw. What are you going to do with all this? Turn it over to the state licensing board and the district attorney's office. Lucas has been stealing from clients, falsifying documents, and committing tax fraud. He's going to face criminal charges. I looked up from the documents. You could have done this months ago. Why wait? Rachel's smile was sharp. Because I wanted him to be publicly humiliated first. I wanted everyone to know what kind of man he really is before he disappears into the criminal justice system. Remind me never to cheat on you. I don't think that's going to be an issue. We spent the afternoon going through the evidence and planning the next phase of our campaign. Rachel had been thorough. She documented every questionable transaction, every lie Lucas had told clients, every corner he'd cut to make a quick profit. The Patterson rental property alone is worth 5 years in prison, she said. He's been collecting rent for 18 months and telling them the property is vacant. What about the Henderson house? Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, theft. Take your pick. By the time I left Rachel's house, Lucas Reed's fate was sealed. The affair had destroyed his reputation, but the financial crimes would destroy his freedom. I drove home as the sun was setting, feeling lighter than I had in months. Dana's car was gone from the driveway, probably at her sister's house or a hotel, somewhere she could play the victim and gather sympathy. The house felt different without her constant presence, like I could breathe again. I made myself dinner, opened a beer, and settled into my office to check the day's developments. The story was still trending on social media. Lucas's real estate office had posted a notice that they were reviewing recent allegations and committed to maintaining the highest standards of professional conduct. Translation. Lucas was finished. Dana's company had issued a similar statement about their employee who had been placed on leave pending investigation. Her HR career was probably over, too. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I showed the message to Sam when he called an hour later. "Lucas?" he asked. "Probably. Or Dana." "Want me to trace the number?" "Not necessary. Let them make threats. Everything they do now just makes them look worse." "You're taking this pretty well." "Why shouldn't I? A week ago, I was the clueless husband being made a fool of behind his back. Now everyone knows the truth, and the people who wronged me are facing consequences. I'd say things are looking up." Sam laughed. "Remind me never to cross you, Pete. Just don't cheat on your wife and steal from your clients. It's not that complicated." After Sam hung up, I sat in my office looking out at the quiet street. Tomorrow would bring new developments, new consequences for Dana and Lucas's choices. The state licensing board would continue their investigation, clients would file more complaints, and the gossip mill would keep churning. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. "You think you're so smart. We'll see." I deleted the message without responding. Let them rage and threaten and plot their comeback. I'd already won the only battle that mattered, the one for truth. Everything else was just cleanup. Monday morning brought developments I hadn't expected. Dana came home while I was having coffee, looking like she'd aged 5 years over the weekend. She moved quietly around the kitchen, making her own coffee, avoiding eye contact. "How was your sister's place?" I asked. "Fine." Dana sat down across from me at the kitchen table, wrapping her hands around her mug like she was trying to warm herself. "Peter, we need to discuss practical matters." "Such as?" "The house, our finances, how we're going to handle the divorce." I raised an eyebrow. "You're ready to admit that's where this is heading?" "I'm ready to be realistic." Dana's voice was flat, emotionless. "My career is over. Lucas won't return my calls. Everyone in town treats me like I have a contagious disease. There's no coming back from this." "You could try apologizing." "To who? You? The town? The people whose opinions never mattered to me anyway?" "To me would be a start." Dana looked up from her coffee, meeting my eyes for the first time since she'd walked in. "Would it matter? If I apologized, if I begged forgiveness, if I promised to never see Lucas again, would any of that change what you did to us?" "What I did? The photos, the presentation, working with Rachel to humiliate us in front of everyone we know. You didn't just expose our affair, Peter. You destroyed our lives." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. No tears this time, no theatrical sobbing. Just cold anger and the kind of entitlement that had probably gotten her into this mess in the first place. "Dana, you had an affair. For months. You lied to me every day, spent our money on hotels and clothes for your boyfriend, made plans to continue deceiving me indefinitely. What exactly did you think was going to happen when I found out?" "I thought you'd confront me privately, maybe demand counseling or separation. I didn't think you'd turn it into a public spectacle." "You thought I'd be discreet about your indiscretion? I thought you'd handle it like an adult." I laughed, and the sound made her flinch. "Like an adult? Dana, you've been sneaking around behind my back like a teenager, lying about where you're going and who you're with, and now you want to lecture me about maturity? I never wanted to hurt you. But you were willing to hurt me, every day, with every lie, with every secret meeting. You just didn't want to face consequences." Dana stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Fine. You want to be vindictive and cruel? That's your choice. But don't pretend this is about justice or truth or any of those noble concepts you've been hiding behind. This is about revenge, pure and simple." "You're right," I said. "It is about revenge. And I'm not finished yet." Something in my tone made her freeze halfway to the door. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Lucas Reed's problems are just getting started, and unfortunately for you, you're connected to all of them." "Peter, what did you do?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Rachel's number again. "Good morning," I said, answering on speaker. "How's your Monday shaping up?" "Eventfully," Rachel replied, her voice carrying clearly through the kitchen. "The district attorney's office just called. They're opening a criminal investigation into Lucas's business practices. Apparently several clients have come forward with evidence of fraud." Dana sank back into her chair, her face pale. "That's unfortunate," I said. "For Lucas." "It gets better. The state licensing board is expediting their review. Lucas's real estate license will probably be suspended by the end of the week. Efficient. I thought you'd appreciate the thoroughness." Oh, and Peter, you might want to check your email. I forwarded you some interesting documents I found on Lucas's computer. I pulled up my email on my phone, scrolling through the attachments Rachel had sent. Bank records, client correspondence, and, most interesting, a series of emails between Lucas and Dana discussing not just their affair, but their plans for the future. Plans that included Dana divorcing me and taking half of everything I'd worked for, then moving in with Lucas after he left Rachel. Plans that involved them starting a new life together with money Lucas had been systematically stealing from his clients. I held up my phone so Dana could see the screen. Interesting reading material. Dana's face went from pale to gray. Where did you get those? Rachel found them on Lucas's computer. Apparently he wasn't very good at covering his digital tracks. Those emails, they were just fantasies. We never seriously planned to steal my money and run away together, because that's what it looks like from here. Dana stood up again, this time moving toward the door with purpose. I need to call my lawyer. Good idea. You're going to need one. After she left, I called Rachel back. How much trouble is Dana actually in? I asked. Legally? Probably none, unless they can prove she knew about Lucas's financial crimes. But professionally and socially? She's finished. And Lucas? 5 to 10 years if he's lucky. The evidence is overwhelming. I spent the rest of the morning reviewing the documents Rachel had forwarded and making copies for my own lawyer. The emails between Dana and Lucas painted a clear picture of two people who'd been planning to destroy their marriages and steal whatever they could in the process. The most damning email was from Dana to Lucas, sent just 2 weeks ago. Peter's been working on a big project for that tech company. If it comes through, we're talking about a significant bonus. Perfect timing for our new start. She hadn't been planning to leave me for love. She'd been planning to leave me for money. My money, earned from work I'd done while she was sneaking around with her boyfriend. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Saw the news about Lucas. Criminal charges? Multiple felonies, I replied. Rachel doesn't mess around. What about Dana? Collateral damage. You okay with that? I thought about it for a moment. Was I okay with Dana's life being destroyed? A week ago, I would have said no. A week ago, I still believed she was the woman I'd married, someone who'd made a mistake but could be forgiven. Now I knew better. The emails proved that Dana hadn't just cheated. She'd been planning to rob me blind and disappear with her lover. She'd been calculating how much money she could steal from our marriage to fund her new life with Lucas. Yeah, I texted back. I'm okay with it. That afternoon, I drove to the bank and moved our joint savings into an account in my name only. Perfectly legal, since both our names were on the original account. I also changed the passwords on our shared credit cards and canceled Dana's access. If she wanted to start a new life, she could do it with her own money. When I got home, Dana was waiting in the living room with a man I didn't recognize. Expensive suit, briefcase, the kind of lawyer who charged by the minute. Peter, this is my attorney, James Morrison, Dana said. We need to discuss the division of assets. I shook Morrison's hand politely. Nice to meet you. I hope Dana mentioned that I'm also represented by counsel. She did. We're hoping we can reach an amicable agreement without involving the courts. That depends on what you consider amicable. Morrison opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. We're proposing a 50-50 split of all marital assets. The house, savings accounts, retirement funds, business assets, everything divided equally. Interesting proposal. Let me run it by my lawyer and get back to you. Peter, Dana said, we don't need to drag this out. We can settle this quickly and quietly, move on with our lives. Quietly? I laughed. Dana, that ship sailed when you decided to have a very public affair with a man who's now facing criminal charges. Morrison cleared his throat. Mr. Harlan, my client's personal relationship with Mr. Reed has no bearing on the division of marital assets. Doesn't it? I pulled out my phone and showed him the emails Rachel had forwarded. Because these suggest that my wife was planning to steal marital assets to fund her new life with her boyfriend. Morrison read through the emails, his expression growing more concerned with each message. These are private communications, he said finally. They might not be admissible in court. Maybe not, but they're certainly admissible in the court of public opinion, and given that this case is already front-page news, I imagine the local paper would be very interested in seeing them. Dana looked like she was about to be sick. You wouldn't. Try me. Morrison closed his briefcase and stood up. I think we need to reconsider our approach here. Dana, I'll call you tomorrow after I've had time to review these documents more thoroughly. After they left, I sat in my living room looking around at the house Dana and I had bought together 5 years ago. We'd been so excited then, planning renovations and talking about filling the extra bedrooms with children someday. Now it just felt like a museum of failed dreams. My phone rang, an unknown number. Peter Harlan? The voice was male, unfamiliar. Speaking. This is Detective Martinez with the District Attorney's Office. I'm investigating allegations of fraud against Lucas Reed. I understand you might have information relevant to our case. I might. When would you like to meet? Tomorrow morning, if possible. 10 o'clock at my office? I'll be there. After I hung up, I realized I was smiling. Lucas Reed was about to discover that stealing money and cheating on your wife were the least of his problems. And Dana was about to learn that planning to rob your husband had consequences she hadn't considered. The game was almost over, and I was the only player left standing. Detective Martinez looked like he'd stepped out of a police procedural, rumpled suit, tired eyes, and the kind of methodical patience that came from years of dealing with people who thought they were smarter than the law. Mr. Harlan, thank you for coming in, he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. I understand you have information about Lucas Reed's business practices. I have information about Lucas Reed's relationship with my wife, which led to some interesting discoveries about his business practices. I handed him a folder containing copies of all the documents Rachel and I had gathered. Bank records, client files, the emails between Dana and Lucas. Everything that painted a picture of systematic fraud and theft. Martinez flipped through the documents, occasionally making notes or asking clarifying questions. When he reached the emails, his eyebrows went up. Your wife was planning to leave you for Mr. Reed. Among other things, she was also planning to take half our assets to help fund their new life together. And she knew about his financial irregularities? Read the emails. She knew he was making more money than his legitimate business could account for. She might not have known the specifics, but she knew something wasn't right. Martinez made more notes. Mr. Harlan, I have to ask, how did you obtain these documents? The financial records came from Rachel Reed, Lucas's wife. She had legal access to their home computer and joint financial accounts. The emails were discovered during her review of those accounts. And you had permission to photograph documents through Mr. Reed's office window? I was standing on a public sidewalk, photographing documents that were visible from the street, no expectation of privacy, no trespassing, no illegal surveillance. Martinez nodded approvingly. You've been careful about staying within legal boundaries. I had good advice. We spent another hour going through the evidence. By the time I left the detective's office, Lucas Reed was looking at charges that could put him away for a decade. Fraud, theft, tax evasion, breach of fiduciary duty. The list kept growing as more clients came forward with complaints. My phone buzzed as I walked to my car. A text from Dana. We need to talk. It's important. I drove home to find her waiting in the kitchen, looking more composed than she had in days. She'd done her hair and makeup, put on one of her professional outfits, like she was trying to reclaim some dignity. How did it go with the detective? She asked. Productively. Lucas is going to be very busy with legal problems for the foreseeable future. Dana's composure cracked slightly. Peter, I need you to understand something. Those emails you found, they were fantasies. We never seriously planned to take your money or... Oh, Dana, stop. Just stop. I sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted by the whole charade. I've spent the last week learning things about you that I wish I could unknow. You've been lying to me for months, planning to leave me for another man, discussing how to maximize what you could take from our marriage. And now you want me to believe it was all just fantasy? The affair was real. I'm not denying that. But the other stuff, the emails about money and leaving town, that was just talk. People say things in the heat of passion that they don't really mean. Like, I love you, and I want to build a life with you. Dana flinched. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dana, you've been planning to rob me and run away with a criminal. Fair stopped being relevant the moment you decided to cheat. Lucas isn't a criminal. He's facing multiple felony charges. His real estate license has been suspended. 3 of his clients are suing him for fraud. What would you call him? Dana was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were filled with tears, but not the manipulative kind she'd used before. These looked genuine. I never meant for any of this to happen, she said quietly. The affair, the publicity, the criminal charges. I felt trapped in our marriage, like we were going through the motions without any real connection. Lucas made me feel alive again. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it. Would you have listened? Really? You've been so focused on work, on building your business, on everything except us. I was building something for us, for our future. No, Peter. You were building something for you, your business, your success, your vision of what our life should look like. You never asked me what I wanted. I stared at her, feeling like I was seeing a stranger. What did you want, Dana? I wanted to matter. I wanted to feel like I was more than just an accessory to your life, someone who kept the house clean and played the supportive wife at business functions. You had your own career, your own friends, your own interests. Did I? Or did I have the career you thought was appropriate, the friends you approved of, the interests that didn't interfere with your plans? For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, almost understood how she could rationalize cheating as some kind of rebellion against a marriage that had become more about convenience than connection. Then I remembered the emails about taking my money and starting a new life with Lucas. Even if I accept that explanation, I said, it doesn't justify what you did, and it certainly doesn't justify planning to rob me. I wasn't planning to rob you. Dana, I've seen the emails. You were calculating how much money you could take from our marriage to fund your new life with Lucas. That's not fantasy. That's planning. She was crying openly now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her, no urge to fix whatever had gone wrong between us. What happens now? She asked. Now you face the consequences of your choices. Lucas is going to prison. Your career is over. Our marriage is finished. And you're going to have to figure out how to rebuild your life without stealing from mine. I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem anymore. Dana wiped her eyes and stood up, moving toward the door with the same defeated posture she'd had all week. At the threshold, she turned back. I hope someday you can forgive me, she said. I hope someday you can forgive yourself. After she left, I sat in the quiet house thinking about what she'd said. Had I been so focused on building a future that I'd ignored the present? Had I treated her like an accessory instead of a partner? Maybe. Probably. But that didn't justify adultery and theft. That didn't excuse months of lies and betrayal and planning to destroy our marriage for financial gain. My phone rang. Rachel's number. How are you holding up? She asked. Better than expected. You? The same. I filed for divorce this morning. Lucas can respond from prison. Any regrets? About exposing him? None. About marrying him in the first place? Daily. I laughed. Join the club. Peter, I want you to know, working with you on this has been the most satisfying thing I've done in years. Not just the revenge, but having someone who understood what it felt like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this alone. Yes, you could have, but it was more fun together. After we hung up, I walked through the house one more time, looking at the life Dana and I had built together. The furniture we'd chosen, the photos from better times, the renovations we'd planned and executed with such optimism. Tomorrow, I'd start the process of untangling 8 years of shared history. Lawyers and accountants and mediators would divide our assets and debts, determine who got what from the wreckage of our marriage. But tonight, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The game was over. Dana and Lucas had played their hands and lost everything. Their reputations were destroyed, their careers finished, their future plans reduced to ash. And I was free. Free from lies and betrayal and the constant nagging feeling that something was wrong in my marriage. Free from pretending to be happy with someone who saw me as nothing more than a meal ticket and a cover story. Free to figure out what came next. I poured myself a drink and settled into my office chair, looking out at the quiet street. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, new possibilities. But tonight, justice had been served, and that was enough. The party was over, and I was the only one still standing.